All right, perfect. We are recording. Screen is being shared. And let me jump on into our D2L class and get to the week 13 area. Okay. All right, guys, hope you've all had a good week. There was surprisingly few emails this week as you guys were putting together your wireframes, which usually means one of two things. Either things went smashingly well or so horribly bad that folks were afraid to reach out. But I literally just opened up the Google Drive right before launching class, and it does look like there's quite a few submissions. So this is awesome. Excuse me. You'll have to bear with me today, guys. I have really had a bad sinus infection for a few days now. It's been a rough fall semester. I don't know, coming back to campus has put a wampum on me in terms of sickness this semester. But I'm really stuffed and congested and occasionally have coughing fits. So bear with me if that happens. Let's kind of read through what's going on this week, and we'll talk about what our game plan is for you guys today. So as you guys have begun to code your wireframes for your home pages and sub pages, which obviously you guys did for the wireframes this week. So it's now time to populate those pages with content. You know, thinking back to what you guys did with the very first project, we took those wireframes and we began to put stuff into them, right? Remember, we put images in place, we put text in place, and then we began to style those things, you know, by positioning images or styling text to give it sizes, colors, fonts, all of those things. And that's where we are finally with this project. It really is the home stretch here over the next couple of weeks, where we're just simply putting in content and styling it. At this point, you guys know how to put in all of that content with the exception of one thing. That being the form fields, you know, areas where users can submit, you know, a name, an address, or, you know, enter a message and then submit that data. We'll do the demo for that next week. Really, what I'll do is I'll do a recorded demo for you guys. So that will be the last real piece of the puzzle for you guys to finish the website. So, you know, as you're working towards part 7, where you're beginning to populate those pages, that will be the one aspect that you won't need to have ready for next week. We'll do a demo on that and we'll make that happen. I have a typo in here. Hang on just a moment. Okay. But today, our goal is to spend time reviewing the coded wireframes. And I'd really like to make myself available to help any of you guys who are having maybe some small issues with getting your wireframes really the way that you want to. So today is going to very much be sort of like I wouldn't really call it a critique per se, because we're not really critiquing the wireframes, but I'm going to pop them open. I'll give them a look. It shouldn't really take me all that long to do that. I'm just going to then open things up for questions you may have, you know, concerning your wireframes, and we'll just, you know, in real time, I'll help you guys solve some of those issues. Okay, so really, that's the game plan. It should be probably one of the more organic classes we've had, closer to like how it would be in a classroom setting where, you know, I'm actually looking at your work and helping you guys in real time, rather than you guys just following, you know, recorded walkthroughs that I made the day before. So, so I'm looking forward to today and helping you guys get the wireframes exactly where you want them to be. Some of you may not have any issues at all in your wireframes, in which case that's awesome. It'll be a very short and quick class for you. In fact, if you don't really have anything that you need to fix in your wireframe, I mean, by all means, you are welcome to hang out and watch as I help folks fix theirs. But if you would prefer to just work on, you know, beginning your, you know, populating your pages in HTML, you're welcome to begin that process. Okay, I would encourage you to. I mean, you know, if your wireframes are good, this gives you potentially a good hour and 45 minutes to begin the process of working through part 7. I think what might be helpful for us to do is just kind of talk real quick about part 7. I know I alluded to it, just putting this the content in your HTML. And I don't know, honestly, that the spec sheet has all that much to really elaborate. It's a pretty straightforward process, but I will pop that open real quick for you guys. I believe it was week 9 that, was it not week 9? Let's see. Yeah, there it is. It is week 9. So looking at our spec sheet for our project, we are now finally on populating the homepage. And as I mentioned, I mean, there's not a lot here in terms of elaboration because there's not much to really say, but essentially what you guys are doing, you've already created the HTML and CSS grid for your project's homepage and subpage. So, oh shoot, that is not even correct there. Oh, there we go, populate homepages with content. So yes, you're just adding that content to the homepage. What I would like for you guys to do for, boy, our dates are not correct here. You know what, I'm gonna, let me take this down. I need to edit that because that is not correct dates and I do not want to confuse. So shoot, my apologies, guys. Let me just download that real quick and I'm going to turn this thing off. I will edit that immediately after class and get our correct dates in there. But essentially what you're doing for next week is you're taking your homepage and your subpages, and again, you're beginning to place content into them. And then just a moment while I turn that off. I'm going to, let's see, can I actually, yeah, I'm going to hide this for now, and I will come back after class and I will get that tweaked. My apologies. I knew there was something that I was missing. Again, it's been a rough week with dealing with a lot of sickness. And all right, so let me actually jump back over to week 13. And I do have the Google Drive open. So again, I will open this on up and we will start to go through these. Again, as I'm doing this, if you have questions, if there's something that you might be stuck on or weren't able to get working the way that you wanted to, it's a great opportunity for you to ask. And we'll, you know, like we always do, we'll just kind of run down in order of how these things are in here and submitted. So Jacob, I'm going to start with yours. Let's get that downloaded real quick. Okay, so a few of you guys, like looking at the folder sizes of these, few just quick comments. At this point for this project, oh, you know, never mind. I did ask some of you guys to, no, this is going to include your last website as well. All right. Sorry for the confusion there. All right, let me get Jacob. Let's get yours downloaded here real quick. Let me also get Visual Studio Code opened. And I'm going to close my file from last week. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to open up these in Visual Studio Code. And Jacob, I do know that your wireframe on your homepage was pretty straightforward and basic. So this may very well do it for you. I'm hoping, there we go. Maybe I was going to say, I'm hoping to see some columns for you on the subpages. Let's see. Let me open this up real quick. And
the one that has the most flex box, I believe is either page 5 or page 4.
Okay, cool. I'm going to open these up in the browser and give them a quick look. It's a text, image, text. Cool. And obviously, if this needs to be expanded upon, obviously those individual columns can just be copied and pasted. So that's pretty straightforward. Cool. The menu you might find, Jacob, that you may want to consider with this, if you want your menu items to align as just from a standpoint of order as it's going down, you will likely want to put some individual you will likely want to continue to put additional columns in there. So, for example, doing this essentially for every menu item. So like, you know, if this is a menu item and it's got maybe some text and an image, same thing. I'm just putting temporary content in here. Menu item is just to designate, you know, an example of content. But what that's going to do rather than you putting all the items in column one in just one column and so on and so forth for column two, this is going to allow these things to stay more orderly. Oh, Okay, let's take a look at your style real quick, because this is definitely not the way that we will want those to stack. So let's just take a look here. So container one, I'm going to close some of these pages just so I can get to your style. But shoot, I didn't want to close that. That one we're going to open back up. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to take out just some of these. And let's take a look real quick at how you're dealing with container one and the subsequent
Um,
columns.
I think if you went to page 5,
Mhm.
I did a different class for each of them.
Okay.
So, and then I put it in the CSS to style them so that they would be on top of each other instead of in a row.
Okay, cool. Let me give that a look then. Yeah, because if you do know how to do that, then that's all good. But I want to make sure that. So here, let's open that up in Visual Studio Code. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Cool. Yes, precisely. So, on any of your pages, if you do want to have multiple items that sort of stay in what will look as a nice clean grid, this is exactly the way that you will want to handle that. Okay. Cool. Yep, Jacob, you are definitely ready to start moving forward with plugging stuff into these pages.
All right, thank you.
Yep. So just keep in touch over the course of this next week if you guys need help. Actually, for all of you guys, obviously keep in touch with me over the course of this week. With Thanksgiving holiday here over the next couple of days, I will be out of town tomorrow and Friday, but I will be getting back into town on Saturday. So if you don't hear from me like in the next couple of days, that's why I'm not going to be near a computer. But by late Saturday, early Sunday, I'll start responding to emails again if you need anything. Let's see, Carlos, let's give yours a look here next. So Carlos, as I'm downloading yours, were there any issues or anything at all that gave you a hard time that you might need help fixing? Let's see here. Be careful about this. Okay. So Carlos, one thing right off the bat that I'm noticing that we want to fix before we go too far is that your homepage and your subpages should not be inside of a folder, or you will have difficulty getting your images. Like if you were to actually put this on a web server, this wouldn't work. Your image folder needs to be inside the same like root folder as the rest of your files. Okay. I'm going to take a look real quick at this and just see if you have any image paths yet. You may or may not, but we want to correct this before you go any further for sure. Cool. Yeah, at this point, there's no images in there, so not a big deal. But Carlos, what you want to do, you don't really want like all of these subfolders set up here like this. Okay, like right off the bat, we do not want to have Photoshop files in here. Be careful with that. If you turn in your final project with Photoshop files in there, you're going to lose the letter grade. Okay, so we want to make sure we lose that. I know I put that on both assignment sheets, guys. So it's okay. I'd rather it happen now and we can all see that than one of you guys turning in a final project with PSDs or AI files. So we don't want that. We definitely don't want your flowchart tucked away inside of here either, or the proposal document. We don't want that in here. And what we do want is for your files here to be sitting inside the project 2 folder. And we're going to lose this HTML wireframe folder. Okay. So this, Carlos, is how we should have your homepage and then your subpages. I would like to see from you the HTML wireframe for each of your subpages. So that's something you'll want to work on over the next few days, Carlos. That looks really good. That's a fantastic HTML wireframe right there. Good. Let me take a look at the subpage. Cool. Yeah, looks good. All right. Cool. So Carlos, hopefully you watch this recording and you make those tweaks that I just made to your RIP folder, because this is very much the way that it should be laid out, not with any of those additional sub folders. You'll have some real issues trying to link images. If your homepage has to go out of a folder and then look for an image folder, we get a really convoluted path that just would not work on the internet, like for real, if we upload this to a server. Okay? But excellent looking wireframes there. Those are gorgeous. Catherine, how about yourself? Are there any issues at all that you ran into that you need help fixing or tweaking?
Yeah, my logo is on the tab of my navigation
Okay,
instead of the corner like you had in the example
gotcha.
in the video, and I couldn't like figure it out on my own. I emailed you, but never got a response back.
Gotcha. Oh, did you email me at the student account, the Gmail one, or through the regular ECC?
I think it was the first email that you had in the
Okay. If,
contact
yeah, my apologies, Catherine. If you ever email me and you don't hear from me within 24 hours, for any of you guys, please feel free to email me again. Then this week was kind of weird. I was in and out with being sick, but I thought I kept up with everything. So yeah, if you don't hear back from you guys within 24 hours, it was likely slipped through the cracks, and you're definitely okay to email me again. Let's take a look though at how this is set up, and I can definitely give you some tips. Is that that logo, is that going to be like present potentially in all of the pages the same way?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so here's another quick thing. So Catherine, and again, for all of you, this is a very common mistake. We want to make sure that the home page is named index. Okay, so that is the only page I'm going to tell you guys what to name, because that's how a real web page works. Is the home page is always called index. Okay, but let's pop that open real quick. I'm going to open it in the browser first of all. Okay. Cool. So Catherine, where would you like the logo? Do you want it to be like on top of the links?
Yeah, it was on top of the link because
Okay.
I had it before in the middle. Then you said it was odd since I have an odd number of
Yeah,
links.
exactly. Yeah, I'd have like 3 links on, or 2 on one side and 3 on the other would definitely be it would just be off the balance. So yeah, let's talk about how to make that happen. I'm going to open up your homepage as well as your style sheet into Visual Studio Code. And let's get an idea of how this is set up to begin with here. Okay. All right, perfect. So we have got navigation, which is the parent, and the children inside of it are the logo, which is in a div, and the navigation links, which are in an ordered list. So you've got this so far set up perfectly. Let's take a look at how we're going to look at really 3 things. We're going to look at how your nav is set up in the style sheet, how your logo is set up in the style sheet, and then how your list items are set up. Let's begin by taking a look at the nav to start with. Okay. Cool. And actually, this is the culprit right here. So the reason why these things, let me see if I can just open up again in the browser real quick. Okay. So the reason why the logo is next to the links instead of being on top of it is because the navigation is set to display of flex. And that is telling any children inside the nav to display next to each other instead of on top of one another. So it'll be a pretty straightforward fix. We're going to want to also tweak the logo in just a moment in terms of positioning it. But this will be a pretty straightforward thing for us to take care of. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and save it. And let's take a look real quick in the browser. That should get the logo now on top of the navigation. There we go. The next step then is to get the logo positioned as well as the links to be positioned then where we want them to go. Okay. So we can do that by going into the nav and basically just centering the stuff inside of it. And we can do that by doing a margin dash left and setting that, actually, no, hang on, that would be for the container itself. So let's do, I am going to, let me try this with it. It should just be a text align, actually. Let me give that a quick shot. This is potentially the easiest way. Actually, the logo, we're gonna have to get to a width or else it won't center at all. So let's just make that happen. Oh, actually, we do have a width. Oh, okay. So the logo is not responding to that width just because of the difference in name. So logo is the class name with a lowercase l. And in the style over here, logo has got a capital L. And it is case sensitive, so we want to be careful about those things. So that should at least get the logo to now have a width of 300. That did get the navigation to center. Now we're going to go ahead and get the logo to center inside of there. And the logo, so okay, setting the text align of centered to the nav will center any non-block elements, and a list would be an example of that. However, the logo being a physical box or container, we would center that a little bit differently. We would do that by giving it a margin left and setting it to auto, and then setting the margin right of the logo to auto. And I'll explain what that means in just a moment. I just want you to see what it's looking like now. There we go. Cool. When we give a box a margin left or a margin right, let's talk about this real quick. It's kind of a bit of a review, but not with the auto per se. You know, if I were to give this a margin left, I don't know, of like 300 pixels, what that's saying to the logo is to count over from the left 300 pixels. Okay. So if I set the margin left to auto, essentially what I'm telling it to do is kick all the way over to the left, or really to the right. Okay. And if I do the same thing then to the margin right, what ends up happening is the object becomes centered because both sides are telling it to kick all the way over. Okay? And if we do that and we save it, there we go. Now it does look like there is something going on here on the links. So let's just take a look real quick at those and see what's going on. Yep, this right here has got to get tweaked because what's happening is the nav is telling these to center, but this line of code right here is then pushing it over 50 pixels off of the left. So if we just set the list items to not have a margin left, and we come on back here and refresh. Okay, cool. Let's talk about how to adjust the spacing in between these, because I absolutely see why you would set that up. So what we want to do, if you want 50 pixels of space in between each of those things, we're going to go ahead and create a class that we can apply to all but the first list item. Okay, so and in fact, the logo might even have it's got something going on there in terms of the way it's centering. Actually, he looks correct. These still look a little off. But let's go ahead and make a class. I'm going to call it link spacer. That's just the name I tend to use when I am coding a style to space out my links. And we can go ahead and do a margin dash left. And I'll use that 50 pixel margin that you were using earlier. And now I will copy that, head on over to new navigation. And for these classes, or for these links, I'm going to go ahead and put that link spacer. I'm not putting it on the first one because that will kick the first one over 50 pixels as well, and we'll end up with the exact same scenario we just had. So we're just doing these to the remaining links. Okay, cool. Let's give it a save, see where we're at. There we go. Cool. It does still look a little bit off to me. Let's take a look inside the nav and see if there's any padding or anything going on in there. It's not quite still centered. You can see that this link is definitely sticking further out from this one. Well, let's take a look. We're getting there at least. So the nav is looking okay. It doesn't have anything going on there. Taking a look here, a few things. So wrapper's good. Container one, maybe an issue. There's the nav. The logo is looking good. Yeah, there's still definitely a small spacing issue going on here. Because the links should be centered under here as well. I'm going to look real quick and just see if there's anything going on with the header. Or for that matter, the wrapper. Wrapper's looking good. Anything happening with the header? No. For a quick fix, what I'll throw out there for you, Catherine, is one way to fix this fast, but I'm not necessarily saying it's the best way to do it because we shouldn't have to do what I'm about to do. But I'm going to put a margin left on there, and I'm going to use a negative value. So it will, instead of pushing away from the left-hand side, it's going to go towards the left-hand side now. And you can see there that they now kick over that 50 pixels. So somewhere there's some code that's causing the links to get bumped over about 50 pixels. That was kind of a shot in the dark. I don't know if that's even the exact number. It's probably a little bit less than that. It can be like minus 40. So there's something, there's a conflict there somewhere. If, yeah, I think it's like negative 40 looks good. If we end up having time after I've gone through everybody's work, I'm happy to jump back in here and give it a look for you for sure. But at the very least, I know I kind of went fast, but you're welcome to walk back and watch the recording that we're making here. But at the very least, we've got this now, situated the way that you'd like. But yeah, that's going to bug me. I'd like to figure out where the conflict is that's causing us to have to use a negative value to push them back. But overall, it looks really good. And I'm guessing you're probably not the only student that probably had an issue like this who wanted to do a logo on top. So hopefully that helps more than just yourself, Catherine. But stay tuned. I'll see if we've got time to square away that negative value that I had used.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's see. All right, Jose, let's give yours a look next. Okay. Jose, did you end up having any trouble or any issues at all as you were putting together your wireframes?
I think after I just sent you the email,
Mm.
if everything looked correct and I was doing it right, I think it just went smooth from there.
Cool, good, good. Yeah, your homepage was looking great.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Cool, and the other pages then came together pretty well for you then as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks good. Good. Yeah, well done, sir. You are absolutely ready to start plugging stuff into those. So yeah, moving forward, if you do get stuck with anything, obviously just reach out to me, okay?
Okay. Probably the only thing is for the banner, just how to like extend it to like the corners of the website, but that's it.
Well, let's give it a look real quick and see. This banner here?
Yeah, just so I think it's like the 100% thing. I think that's the only thing.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk about that real quick. So The banner, if you want to go all the way to the edges of the browser window, we'll have to take it out of the wrapper.
Okay.
Now, potentially, what that's going to mean is everything above it is potentially going to come out of the wrapper as well. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. I can help you get that. At least I'll build an example for you. So that's going to be really two things that we're going to want to edit to make that happen. We are going to want to take a look here at the hero banner. So basically hero banner and nav, these things are going to come out of the wrapper because the wrapper otherwise would constrain them. Now, so the nav will still make at the width that it currently is, but I'll show you now how to keep the hero banner. So again, just pulling those two containers out, going into the style sheet, I'm going to look for nav, because nav is the parent for the stuff inside of it. Okay, perfect. In fact, before I tweak this, I'm going to show you what it looks like in the browser so you kind of have a good idea of like what it is that I'm tweaking. Okay, so right now, your nav and your hero banner extend all the way out to the sides, okay? And that's just because we pulled them out from the wrapper, and the wrapper was the thing, of course, that was constraining their overall width. So your wrapper was what? 960 pixels, perfect. So now we want to find the nav and just give the nav a width of 960. And we'll save that, and we'll refresh. And did I not save that? Let's see. Save our style, save our HTML. Let's see. Something going on up in there. Let me put, I'm going to put a background color in there real quick. Because I want to see how big it actually is. Okay, cool. So it actually is 960 pixels. Yeah, of course, I've not centered it yet. So let's go ahead and do that. For that, we'll set the margin to auto. Save that. There we go. Cool. So you now have navigation, and the rest is 960 and centered, and your hero banner will expand and contract to the width now of the browser. Okay. What I will show you guys next week how to deal with is some background images. So I need to make I want to make a quick list here of things. So I know I'm going to show you guys forms next week, but I also want to talk about background images because you'll need that for this. And I know, like Chaz, you'll need to learn how to work with background images inside of your wrappers. So let me just start a quick Word doc. So I come prepared to show you guys those things. So forms and background images. Okay. All right. Awesome. So yeah, that should get you where you want to go with it. Again, fantastic, really nice, detailed work, Jose, on those wireframes.
Thank you.
All right, Bella, how about yourself? How did everything come together on your wireframes? Let's see. I don't know. I didn't expand up the view yet. I don't know if Bella's here, but we will take a look at this regardless and see if there's any issues present. Okay. Cool. Index. Let's start with that. Good. That looks nice. Okay. Next up, let's just take a look at the subpages. Good. Good. Yeah, these look fantastic. All right, Bella, no suggestions for you. You're definitely ready to move forward with things.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Kyle, how about yourself? How did everything come together for you? Give this a look. Good. Kyle, what you may want to consider, a few moments ago when I was working, shoot, was I just doing? I did the link spacer too. I think that might have been, that was either Catherine or Carlos, but it was one of the first few that I did. You may want to add a link spacer class to these just to space these out a little bit more on the real thing. For now, though, it's certainly fine, but just consider that for the final version of the website. Let's see, how did the rest of these look? Oh, nice job putting a basic form in there. So this is what we'll talk about next week, coding forms. And you can actually like, enter stuff, submit button, that kind of thing. Cool. Yeah, it looks like most of your pages really kind of follow the same format. So it should be, very straightforward here for you over the next few weeks. Jalen, how about you? Any issues at all that came up while you were coding your wireframes?
No, they should all be okay.
All right, excellent. Yeah, Jalen, like I just mentioned a moment ago, not something you have to do now, but when you start to put the actual content here, you'll likely want to put a link spacer class like I just did into these links, just to be able to control the spacing in between those. That would really be my only suggestion. The rest of the wireframe looks really nice. Let's take a look at the other sub pages here. I think yours were very similar in terms of the way that you had set these pages up. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, the only one that should be different is the contact page.
Right, yes, looking good. Cool. So yeah, just consider with yours. Perfect. Yeah, you set these up as lists. So very much like I did a few moments ago. You'd put a link spacer class on the last 4 links, and then just go into your style sheet. And all that style really has to do is just have a margin left, which is set to whichever amount of pixels you want in between those. So it should be very, very easy to implement. Nice work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so far, guys, these wireframes look really nice. Let's see. All right, Kathy, let's give yours a look. Any issues, Kathy, at all that you might have come across while setting up your wireframes?
Well, I think one of the questions that I had is I wasn't sure, since my navigation went all the way across, I didn't know whether to put it in a container or not.
Ooh, okay. Let's take a look at how it is set up currently, and we can kind of talk about some options for you and see whether or not that makes sense. Cool. So Kathy, when you say like your navigation goes all the way across, do you want it to go like literally across the entire browser?
Well, no, well, just under my head, under my header
Gotcha.
and my logo. Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I didn't put it in a container because it didn't need to be in, 2 different.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. Okay.
So was that okay not to put it in a container?
Well, maybe. Let's talk about the differences between putting it in a container and not. So the advantages to put, because I guess the direct answer to you The quickest way for me to answer that question is to say, no, you actually don't need to put it inside of a container. The only reasons why you would, there's a couple I can think of. If you, number one, if you want to have like a background color that goes behind the navigation,
Yes,
the only way to do that if you don't have a container is to put it in its parent container. So we'd have to style the wrapper to have a specific background color. Now that wouldn't
Oh.
necessarily be an issue if everything else has a background color. Because otherwise, the other thought that I had is that it would be advantageous to put in a container to be able to control the spacing. But in reality, you actually really could just change the margin on top of the list to have it come down and then change the margin top of the homepage image. So really it'll boil down to whether or not you want to have a background color behind your navigation, or are you okay with it just being white potentially? If the answer
Well-
is you want a background color, then I would definitely put those links inside of a navigation container. Otherwise you can leave them.
you mean, well, I mean, it's, when you say in a navigational container, I mean, they're already in navigation, right?
Okay.
So are you saying add another container?
Gotcha. Let's take a look.
Put the nav inside the container?
Nope, let's take a look. Let's take a look. So if you already have a nav, then you actually
Yeah.
do have a container for them. Because nav is a box. So there's a few things that they basically are divs. That would be nav, header, and footer. Those three are containers that are essentially their divs. Let's see here. Yeah, you know what, Kathy, you do have nav already. So this is a container. You're good to
Okay.
go. So if you did want to put a background color in there, you could just go ahead and add that directly to the nav. And that nav then does, because it's a container, it allows you to set a width, have top padding or bottom padding, or if you wanted to center the links, which it looks like you already have. So yeah, you've got a container there. You're good to go.
Okay, all right. If you look at my style sheet though, for the nav,
Mhm.
I don't think I did it as like you did, making a class with a link spacer. I did it a little differently, and I wonder if I should change that.
Let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at what it actually looks like here. So cool. So you're doing like 125 pixel spacing in between these with the word spacing?
Yeah, that's what I did, because that was
Cool.
the only way I knew. I knew how to do it, or I could get it to work. I forgot about the link spacer, which I think we might have used for the first one.
I think on the first one, sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing wrong with the way that you're doing that. I like that. The issue would be if you had more than one word. So if each of your links are just one word, you're good to go. Just do exactly what you're doing there. If
Yeah, no,
they
they're
are-
not.
Okay, so then you would want to just do a link spacer, because otherwise in
Okay.
between every individual word, you'll get that 125 pixels of spacing.
Okay, so I'll just do that right in the in the navigation right here that we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you likely will not need this. Right now, this code's not working for you just because
Yeah.
it doesn't have the PX in there.
Uh-huh.
If we
Oh,
did
yeah,
put the
yeah.
PX in there and we save it, this is likely going to push these things over then a bit.
Yeah,
Actually, no, it's not.
Okay.
What am I doing wrong there? It's probably not. I don't know. I wonder if there's a conflict with the word spacing, because I definitely just centered it. Yeah, there's got to be a conflict, I guess, with the way that works when we're using word spacing, but not a big deal. You really won't need that padding, right? If you're using the word spacing, or if you are using the link spacer.
well, if I change the word spacing so that it's smaller, then can I still have two words?
Yes,
You know what I mean?
I do. It's just in between. So like potentially then what will happen is that in between, the space in between those two words will be the same distance that you'll have in between your links as well. Yeah, I mean, I would say give it a shot to start with and see how you
Okay.
like it. If it looks good, cool, you're good to go.
And how will I put a box around my link?
So you'll do that by addressing the links themselves, and the links are likely just going to be list items. Yep. So the list items is what you would call out to with a link spacer. Okay.
Oh,
So,
okay.
like the alternate for you would be, I'm going to just, I'll comment this out real quick, or actually I'm going to take these 2 lines of code out and I'll put in an alternate example for you. So if we were to do that link spacer, like I did earlier, let's say we do like a margin left of, I don't know, I'm going to throw in like 100 pixels. Let's say we've got a lot. Then we would just add this class to the individual link item or list items that we want. We would not want to do it to the first one. We'd want to do it to everyone after that. And it would just be like that. Now mine is not quite as large as yours was. Oh, there we got a couple extra carrots there. I think yours was 125, mine's only 100, but let's give that a look. Yeah, there we go. So, but yeah, you can easily do 125. It looks like there's these extra carrots in here. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Cool, but yes, that could easily just be changed to 125 or whatever value that you want to use, So that's how we would do that. So the nice thing about using a list is that those things are, what am I trying to say? They are individual elements that we can target without having to put each individual link into a box.
Okay.
Cool. It does look like, there's an issue happening here as well. Same thing that I saw earlier. I think it might have been in Kathleen's. One of them earlier, I was having a little extra space on one side. I do see the exact same thing here. So for now, for the time being, to correct for that, you can inside of your list items. I don't know if you're calling out to them already somewhere, but you can set the list items. Let's see. You know what, let me just do a quick find. Let's see. Oh, there. Okay. Yeah, we might have to bump them back over with that margin left using a negative value. The way that we're kind of tearing through these, I should have time for us to take a look at like why this is happening, because there's a conflict here somewhere. So let me see. Oh, I need a negative value. I did not use one. Let's put a negative in there. There we go. So yeah, I'll figure out why that is that we're having to do that. If for some reason we don't have time in class today, or I end up not being able to solve just with the time that we have left, I would definitely use this for temporary purposes, and I'll work on it over the course of the week. But yeah, index is looking really good though. Kathy, let me take a look at the other pages.
Yeah, the other pages were mostly the same, except for the contact page was different.
Okay. Cool. So the other navigations are looking weird right now because in the home page, I had gone in and added that link spacer class, but I didn't index any of your other pages. So that's why you might have noticed that your navigation was all smushed. But no worries. That would get fixed by you just putting that. Either we're doing one of two things: either putting the link spacer in, or if you wanted to go with the word spacing, taking the link spacer out on the homepage. So that's some options. But they look really nice, Kathy. You're certainly
Thank you.
Forward. All right. Wow, we only got 2 left. We just like flew through that. That was awesome. Chaz, let's give yours a look through next.
I'll have to add that link spacer too.
Okay, cool. Anything at all trip you up at all during the construction of these, Chaz?
No, it was all the pages were pretty similar. So except for the main page where I went back and forth, but everything else was pretty straight down. So
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I kind of knew for you that once you got the first one built, the rest is essentially different copies and paste again.
right, I just had to add different amounts for the rides. But yeah,
Okay, cool. Let's give these a quick peek. Good. Just popping up in the code real quick. Cool, good. Good. Okay, yes, you are absolutely ready to move forward with it. So for next week, Chaz, when you start putting in content, again, don't worry about the background images. We haven't talked about that yet. So that would include, the sort of like the yellow geometric shapes that you had behind all of the other elements. Get everything else in place. I'll talk about how to add that into your wrapper, and all the sort of ins and outs of dealing with background images.
sounds good.
Cool, nice work, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Nick, let's give yours a look here next. Nick, how did it go for you? Any issues at all that you might have run into?
I had a couple questions regarding it. Mostly I found on my page 4.
Okay.
One of the main things I was figuring out was how do you make it so on the Flexbox, can you make it so it can divide, like I have a button and then the text? Is there a way to kind of make that one box divide into two?
Absolutely. Let's start by taking a look at what you have here. It was page 4?
Yeah, page 4. I mean, the issues on all of them, but page
Okay.
4 I had like a couple things on, so.
Okay. Well, you want me to start with like the index page and kind of work our way through?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay, excellent. We'll do that. Cool. So Nick, like looking at the home page here, what might be something that you need help with on this page?
Oh, actually, I think the home page should be fine.
Cool.
Just because they're all separate, like, yeah, boxes and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's once I get into the sub pages is when it gets like a little bit more like hectic and stuff.
Okay. Cool. So you're wanting to do like a button and text in these here?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Okay. The nice, I guess the quick answer for you is that it is actually very easy to do. It's very easy to stack things on top of one another. We won't really have to use Flexbox at all to do that. So let's see, this is page 1. Let me jump into page 1 in here. Okay, so here inside of really any of these example column 2 that you've got button and you've got text. What we'd want to do is just put the button and the text each into their own individual div. So what ends up happening is example column 2 becomes a parent for the things inside of it. And what we would do is we could do a div and just say button, obviously put a real button in there when the time comes. And then here we would do a div and we could put text inside of that. Here, let's see, a few of you guys had buttons, so let's talk buttons next week as well. I'll make a video on that. But that's it. So now this example column 2 holds 2 containers inside of itself. And if we go back to the browser real quick, and we look at that, you'll see that those now do their thing. Now, I haven't styled them at all yet, those 2 containers. We certainly can, right? Like we could give this div, for example, a class that we call, whatever, button container. And then give it a width, give it a height, give it any kind of margins or anything it needs. We could make do the same for text and maybe call this, I don't know, text container, for example. And then we could style those out. Because right now, and even still, even though I added those classes, we haven't defined those classes yet. So right now they're sort of at the mercy of the default settings, which is, they don't have any height or anything. What you would potentially then do though is for column 2, would be if you didn't want them to be pushed down so far, we could remove any kind of padding that you might have inside of there. So let's look at container, example column 2, see what's going on up in there. Yeah, there we go. So it's just that 100 pixels of padding on example column 2. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and set it to 0 so we can see what that looks like with no padding. There we go. So they right now with no padding inside of them, there's nothing at all that's pushing them down. So it looks very flat. I'm not necessarily saying that we make it 0, but just so you can see what it looks like without all of that padding. Maybe it ends up being a number like 20 or something like that. What we could also do if you wanted these things to further come down or be controllable would be calling out to them in a class then. So, we made this thing called button container. We've got another one called text container. If we go into your style sheet and we add that, we can then begin to control them a little bit further. So if you wanted button container, let's say to, I don't know, have a width or have maybe come down further, we can do a margin top on that. Maybe we set the margin top to, I don't know, 100 pixels. So now it's going to count down 100 pixels instead of being up near the top. Now it comes down at the bottom. Again, I'm not saying you actually use 100 pixels, Nick. That's just sort of an example to show you how we can start to take control over those elements. Okay?
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. We'll kind of run through your pages, and if there's any other pages that have issues, by all means, let me know. Okay, this kind of looks very much similar. So yeah, same sort of thing here. Let's see. Okay, again, same video.
Oh yeah, so for this one, I was wondering, is there a way to make on the left side columns like 2 images and then on the right side just one big like large one with the button and text?
Hang on, can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Oh, is there a way to make it so there's 2 images on the left side and then one large like button and text thing on the right side?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we would do that is on page 4. Yeah, absolutely. So if you wanted 2 images and then the button and text, we would just make a copy of this whole container that holds the images. Or I mean, we could just one of 2 ways. You could actually just plug 2 images in there. Okay. Images line up by default right next to each other. So that's one thing you could do. Or you could just put another column 1 there, and then each one. So we'll just say like 1 image in each of these. And let's give that a quick look. There you go. So image, button and text.
Oh, I mean, like, is it possible to make it so it kind of goes down one? So there's 2 images in the left side in like a row instead of a column.
Sure.
And then on the right side, it's like a button and text, but it's kind of like a larger one.
Absolutely. Yes. So what you would do in that case is we would take this out and you would actually just put 2 images in here. And what you would do is, so we would do something like this. You would do like, when you actually go to put the images in, you do like, image src. We don't have an image at this point, so I'm just going to put test.jpg in here. It would have its width. Again, we don't have a real one, so we won't do it. I would have a height. It would have an alt tag. And then you would just do that again. Now, the way that this is set up is these 2 images would actually be next to each other. What you would need to do here is put in a break. That will get the next image to go underneath. If you wanted additional spacing there, Nick, what you could do is put in like an additional break. This is not the best way of doing it. You can certainly put multiple breaks in there. But if you wanted a very specific value, maybe you wanted the one image to be, I don't know, exactly 50 pixels under the other one, you could get that to happen by just adding a class. And, maybe, again, just give it a name. So this could be, I don't know, image 2. And then you could go into your style sheet and tell image 2 to have a margin top and whatever exact number that you want it to do, like you want it maybe to come down 50 pixels, margin dash top 50, that second image will come down 50. If you're not don't necessarily really care that it's exactly a certain value, you can just use multiple breaks to make that happen. Okay. As you do that, what will happen then, this container here, let me save that. It's not been saved yet. So as this container comes further down with another image, this one will grow as well. Okay, so they'll end up matching each other by the time that you're done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Couldn't he also, just throwing it out there, lay out both images together and make it just one image? That way it'll look exactly how he wants it to look.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
You could just do that. That way you don't have to worry about plugging both in. You could just plug one
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. And that gives you absolute control over it then as well. If you're in Photoshop, for example, and you've got like an image, I'm just going to work with colored boxes here. But if you had an image and then a second image, in Photoshop, you can make them exactly however far you want from there. And then it's just a matter then at that point of when you go to optimize these for the web, cut them both out as one chunk and just save that for the web. So yes, that's, I hadn't even considered that, Chaz, and that's probably the quickest way of doing it. The only instance I would not recommend that in is if you maybe had a bunch, like you had a 100, 200 page website and you had that same thing on all of them. You may want to do it in code with 2 separate images, because if you decide you want to change them at all, like the distance between them, you can go in there and in one line of code change it versus having to go back to Photoshop and readjust, the spacing between all these images. But if it's a simple brochure site like we're putting together right now, this is probably the best way to do it. All right, look at that. We got through that pretty easily. Cool. Before I go back in and try and fix the issue that we were having there, once I put those link spacers on, does anyone who maybe is here today in our class but didn't submit, anybody didn't submit that needs help at all with getting things squared away so that you can submit the project? Okay, cool. All right, before I dig into that, we do have to take a quick survey. And what do you call it? Student class evaluations emails went out, I think last week, to all of you guys. And it's really important that we do that, especially like for myself. This is my first full-time semester teaching at ECC, and it's really important that I get feedback from you guys. So I'm going to give you guys some class time to do that real quick. If you go into your ECC email and you do a search for student evaluations, I don't have a blackboard here to write on, so I'll just type this in a document, I suppose. But if you do a search for student evaluations, you can go ahead and then take the survey now, especially because this is at ECC, at least this is the first time, and that's changed the size of this type. I can't with this full screen right now. Here we go. I can try and cheat. There we go. Yeah, in your email, do a search for student evaluations. You'll find the email that they sent you. I did have a student in my physical, like on the on-campus class yesterday, say he couldn't find it, but he just was not searching for the right term. So literally search for student evaluations. And I would love an honest evaluation. I cannot see the names of you guys when you submit them. I can see the evaluations at the end, the dean will give them to me, but I don't know who is saying what. So be honest with me. If there are things that, you know, that you would suggest for future classes that are done differently, you know, let me know. If there's things that you like, let me know. But again, it's really critical during the first couple of semesters for full-timers that we get those evaluations back. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes in class here to do that. And then we will jump back into a coding demo here where I'm going to try and figure out what was going on those link spacers with them kicking over a little bit too far. Okay? So I'm going to take a quick 10-minute break, give you guys time to do those evaluations. And then at 2:45, I'll be back and we will, you know, we'll code again. Okay, but please, guys, it would mean a lot to me if you did take those evaluations again. Please give me honest feedback on them. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself, and I will be back in 10.
I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear you.
There we go. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate the
Okay.
that. Yes, I was on mute. So
I
yeah.
do have one other question.
Sure.
I know this is something that I added in for my project, but if you could go back to mine one more time.
Sure. Yeah, I've got your folder open right now, actually.
Okay, go to my contact page, and I had a checkbox with a text,
Mhm.
and I don't know exactly, how to make that work, the
Sure.
little checkbox when you're submitting something,
Yep.
or is that something that we'll cover in the next, when you're talking
Yep.
about the
Yep, exactly.
submit?
Totally. So next week, when I talk about forms, I'm going to talk about all of the form elements, which include, there's actually two kinds of checkboxes. One is called the checkbox and one is called a radio button. They look very similar, and I'll talk about the differences between them. A checkbox generally is when you have just one option, like let's say the ability to opt in or out of a subscription, for example, versus radio boxes would be when you have multiple options, like being able to choose, let's say, sizes for clothing or, color of something. And I'll talk about both of those, as well as how
Okay.
to control the button for that.
Okay,
What I'm going to do right now is try and solve for the that wackiness that we had in the spacing on the links. So Kathy, I know yours was the last one that I was working on when I did that. Even if you don't end up using this in the end, if you end up using the word spacing, I'm just going to use yours because it was convenient and it's right here.
I did make the changes that you suggested, and it evened them out.
Oh, did okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it worked.
Okay, excellent.
So I don't know.
Did you have
if
to
you
use the
need to
negative
change it.
value to make that happen?
No, I didn't. I don't, no, I don't think so. I can
Okay,
double check,
Good.
but
Yeah, I wonder if there's just an issue that I'm having right now, because that really shouldn't have happened on yours, or I want to say it was Catherine's that I was working with earlier. It might not have been. It was definitely one of the first few, though, that we looked at where I had that issue. The whole idea of not putting a link spacer on the first one really should solve for that. So that's good to hear. I might be trying to fix something that doesn't actually need to be fixed. So maybe I'll play around with that later after doing like a restart on my computer. Sometimes that just kind of clears things up. Cool. Well, guys, with the
okay,
last-
yeah. Yeah, I just put the margin left and then put, the 125 pixels in it with the line link spacer, and it did space them out correctly.
Okay, perfect.
And
Good.
they look even. So,
Okay, excellent.
so thank you.
Yeah, I know, you're very welcome. Cool. So with that, guys, any other issues that might have popped up that you just can't solve for? We've got about 20 minutes here, but I'm happy to help you guys out with any of those things.
I have a problem. My navigation, it's transparent, I guess. It hovers over the image and it's transparent, like you can see through it. I'm not sure how to do that.
Gotcha. Let's take a look here real quick, Catherine. I'm going to open up your project. So let's see. We should be able to do that really right on your index page, and then it will apply to all of them. Let's see. Cool. So Catherine, you're looking to have like your links have like in the container that they live in, having a semi-transparent background.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the way that we would do that is by adding a background color to it. So that would be done. Let's see. Let's see. So actually, what I'm going to recommend that we do in that case is that we put the unordered list inside of its own div that we can then control. So, doing a div, let's give it a class. I'm going to call it like, I don't know, like nav bar or navigation bar. and that will surround the ordered list. Okay, so this will be the thing that we call out to in our style. I'm going to begin by giving that a just a regular background image to start with, or I should say, not background image, but background color. And we'll start with red, and then I'll show you how to modify that so you can control the opacity of it. But let's give this a quick look in the browser, see where we're at with it. There we go. Cool. So right now, the opacity of that obviously is 100%. And when it comes to controlling opacity with your style sheets, here I will show you. So basically what we would need to do is call out to the RGB color values and then add a what's called an alpha to that as well. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and do a CSS background color opacity search, and here we go. I'm a huge fan of the W3 schools, guys. It's not the prettiest website, but it is very functional, and it's literally all of the W3 schools are written by the World Wide Web Consortium, like literally the people that write the rules that are followed. How do I even put it? The W3 Consortium are the folks who write the rules for the internet. Okay. So let's see, here we go. RGBA, so that stands for red, green, blue, and alpha. Okay. So like, for example, I don't think we've even talked about hexadecimal color codes. Hexadecimal color codes or RGB values refer to a red, a green, and a blue. You can get those from any, well, you can get them from any color picker online, but you can also get them based on colors inside of Adobe color picker as well. These are your RGB values right here. So if you were to pick a very specific red, let's say you wanted this exact red, you would type in 212 57 57, for example, to get that exact red. Or if so you can always get those values from any color at all using the Adobe color picker. I'm going to use straight red, which would be 255 0 and 0. And you can see here, if we don't include a value at all, that last value, it will just remain 100% opaque. But at 0.8, this would be 80% opaque. 0.6, that's 60%, 40%, 20%. So that's really what that looks like. Yeah, I am going to actually grab this. And we'll plug that on in here. Cool. So again, red, green, blue. What these values, they can go as high as 255. So we're setting the red channel all the way up to its maximum amount. And we're changing the green and the blue channels, we're making them go all the way down to 0. So we're having no blue or green and all red. And I'm setting this to a 30% opacity. So if we look at what that looks like now in the browser, we get something like this. Now, the other thing that you'll want to be aware of is if you want the image, let's say in the header, to go up, and underneath that, we would need to set the header value to a negative number. Okay. I'll plug a temporary image in there just so you can kind of see this. So let me just do like a maybe it's like 960. Maybe I'll make my height like, I don't know, like 640. It's kind of a big banner, but it's fine. And then I'm just going to put something in here so we can, like, I guess, see this. I'll put like some clouds or something in here. Just so that we have some kind of an image. Okay. So I'm going to save that for the web. And I'm going to put this into your folder for an example. That should be in the downloads. For now, I'm just going to call this clouds. Okay. All right, next is I'm going to go into the header and I'll put that image in there. So I'm calling out to the images folder and the clouds image. I'll add an alt. I'll add a height. Let me get rid of this. You guys can see what the heck I'm doing. There we go. Height. Yep. It's not quite right. That's got to go in those quotes. And I'll add a width to that image as well. All right. That should give me the components to at least see an image in there. There we go. So that now is underneath. And if we want that to go up, we need to use a negative value. Now, this is going to open up some other issues that we're going to have to talk about, because it's going to not only go up, it's going to cover up this nav. So we'll talk about how to deal with that. It's going to definitely take some reconfiguration. There's a couple ways we can do this, but we may have to end up putting the navigation of the links under this image and pulling it up is likely what we're going to have to do. But give me a moment. I will try. I'll try an easy way first by using something called Z-index, but I don't think that Z-index is going to work in this case. So we'll see though. Okay, so let's see. So that let's see. Let's go to header. We have something for header. We might not yet. No, okay. So for our header, I'm going to use a margin top, and I'm going to use a negative value to get it to go up. For now, I'll do like a -200, and we'll kind of see what that gets us. How far up that's going to go? It's probably too much, but let's refresh that and see. Yeah, I went too far with it, but let's maybe try 100. A little closer. There we go. We're getting there. Just depends on how far up you want it to go ultimately. I mean, you don't necessarily have to completely figure out that exact number right this moment. I went a little bit too low with that, but let's see. I'm going to do a quick Z-index test, but generally when we're stacking like this does not do it, but I'm curious, because if it does work in this case, that would be lovely. So a Z-index is just a number that we assign to something, and it essentially allows containers to act like layers. A lower number means it sits lower in the stacking order. So if I set the header, to a 1 and the nav to a 2, in theory, the nav will come on top, but I don't think it will work in the way that I'm using it right here. Let's see though. Awesome. Could work. Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, let's see here. We're probably going to have to put the nav under the header and then pull the nav up. So a slight reconfiguring of things here is what has to happen. So the header will go above the nav, meaning it's going to display first. Now I'm going to take a moment and go back into my style, take out these Z indexes, and get rid of the header going up by 50. And for now, just setting it to 0. So we're gonna start with that. Yeah. So the header's up top now. It'll be easy for us to pull this stuff up. The question I have for you, Catherine, is do you want the logo to sit on top of the header also, or do you want the logo to look like it's sitting above the header, like on white, and then the links sit on top of just the header image?
Yeah, I just want the link to be on top of the header image.
Okay, but do you want the logo to also be on top of the header image, or do you want it to be like sit above it?
Higher,
Okay,
above it,
perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So then what we'll end up doing is this. Whatever the height of your logo ends up being, I'm going to set an artificial height right now, just because we don't have a real image in there. But let's just say, for example, maybe the image that goes in there is 300 pixels tall. Okay. What we'll do then is we'll set the header to have a margin top of 300 pixels also. So what that's going to do is it's going to count down the header 300 pixels from the top. Okay. That's going to create the space for us to now move this stuff up and cover up the, like the logo will now fit up in the space. The navigation will sit on top of this image. So to do that, I go to the nav. And we're going to do a margin top of, let's see, let's do some math here. So the 300 pixels for the logo, I can't remember what I made the height of that. I thought it was 400. I'm going to start with 700 and I'll take a look at it and see where we're at. I might be off by a handful of pixels. No, I need to use a negative value. What that just is, it pushed it down. Using a positive value for margin top makes that space count down from the top. We need a negative number. So that's going to be a minus 700. All right, we're getting there. I need to push, let's see. I would need to push the header down a little bit further. Or make the logo smaller. I mean, you could do either one. I'll push the header down though. Let's see what's going on. We're pushing both of these down. Let's see, why is that happening? Let's see here. I am going to, so the two of these things are conflicting with each other. So what we'll do is we'll make this a little bit easier. I'm going to set the navigation's position to something called absolute so that our math is a little bit easier. And an absolute position will count absolutely from the very first pixel down. So if I set the margin top on this thing to 0, it will start at the very top without any negatives or anything like that. I'm going to start with that. I'll have to tweak your header in a moment here, but let's at least see if the logo is now going all the way to the top. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So a few things here. We'll get the header to come down, but I'm definitely noticing that the semi-opaque navigation is not cooperating with the image. Let's at least get the positioning down, and then we'll take a look at what's happening here next. There's a lot of shuffling has to happen when we do this, because now what's happening is that the nav, by setting an absolute position, none of the other content is going to recognize it. So we have to then push it down under the header. We can't figure that math out though until we've got the header in its place. So let's get the header and then we can figure out the math for the rest of it. Why is that breaking down like that? Now we shouldn't be getting a reaction here by me touching the header. A while since I used absolute position, so bear with me here. Take this real quick and just move it down so I can see this code at the same time without having to bounce around. Let's see. No, absolutely is not correct. Absolute. Okay, so that's probably going to change my math. Then again, let me see where we're at, and we'll make an adjustment. All right, cool. We are making progress. My math just is a little bit off, so give me a moment. Now that I've got that squared away, I'll explain them in a moment. All right, now. So here's what we have to figure out. Here's the math behind this. Height of the logo plus the height of the navigation. Okay. The logo I set to 300. I don't know what the height of this is. Let's start with 300 for the nav, minus 300. Let's take out header as well for a moment. Might give you an absolute position as well. Wow, that's good. I don't think we end up using margin top when we do an absolute position. I think it's just top. Actually, that's responding. Okay. So again, the content we'll have to tweak. We'll do that in a moment because it's not going to respond to elements once they're absolutely positioned. But we are getting there. The other issue that we're going to run into with absolute positioning is that we are going to, we have to center it by doing a margin and just setting that to auto. Yeah. So this is definitely, this is taxing my my memory. This is an older way of doing things that I've not done in a while, but we'll get it. If not, I will build you. Yeah, you know what I'm gonna probably have to do, Catherine? I will build you an example of this because I'm in the ballpark, but this is an older way of doing things that I've not done in a while. I'll do some research and see, just so I'm not there, because there may be a newer, more efficient way of doing it. Good news is we can get these things to overlap, but it's going to take me a little while to figure this out, and we just at the end of our class time. So let me just add to my list of things, demos I'm going to build for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and do a demo where I will do nav with a semi-opaque background color that overlaps the header. Okay, so hang tight in the meantime. You can still start plugging content in. That's not going to change. The work really is all going to happen inside your style sheet. So you can work full steam ahead with your HTML, no problem. But yeah, we'll call that a to be continued.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it, guys. We actually hit the end of class. All right, so as always, if you guys need anything over the week, please reach out to me. I will be traveling over the next couple of days for the Thanksgiving weekend. I will be back late Saturday. You may not hear back from me until early Sunday if you do reach out. But in the meantime, have a safe and healthy and wonderful Thanksgiving. As always, guys, again, if you need anything, just reach on out to me. If I don't hear from you, I will see you guys next week. Another, I guess, last, as always, once the video has finished compressing and uploading to YouTube, I'll make sure I post the link for you guys so you can access the code that we wrote today. All right, guys, have a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
you
you.
too. Thanks.